Republican members of Congress and in the Senate are giving Americans the middle finger as the markets look like this, down about 4%. The Dow, the S&P was down about 5%, NASDAQ down about 5% on Friday. This was on top of similar losses on Thursday. So I want to show you what are these MAGA Republican members of Congress, state representatives, senators, like what is their message to the people right now? Well, let's go to Arizona, see what this state legislator has to say. MAGA, of course. Here, play this clip.
President Trump, this is your favorite state senator from Arizona, Wendy Rogers. I just want you to know that I am wearing the Trump watch, and I sport these gold Trump shoes every chance I get on the floor of the Arizona legislature. And I'm proud to be working for you here in Arizona.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, she's really a state legislator, state senator from Arizona. I will go to D.C. How about MAGA Republican Senator Jim Banks, who says, we all knew this was going to be disruptive. That's what we wanted. The goal of this is what we promised you: disruption, pain, suffering. So this is a win. This is actually what MAGA Republican Senator Jim Banks is saying.
These other countries are already coming to the table, and this is what's brilliant about what President Trump is up to. He's put other countries on notice. You're not going to take advantage of us anymore. They're already reacting. Canada and Mexico is begging President Trump to come to the table and negotiate their tariffs down and do away with our tariffs too. We know this is going to be disruptive, but there's a silver lining and good news in the midst of all of it. And as you said, it's happening right in my hometown at a General Motors plant that's going to pay more in overtime and create hundreds of new temporary, hopefully permanent jobs and make more cars in America. Because General Motors, a great American company, actually makes less cars that they sell in the U.S. than Toyota, Honda, or Subaru do.
We're seeing massive GDP contraction, massive layoffs in factories. We're the opposite of what he said. Up is down, down is up when it comes to these MAGA Republicans. I at least give, can't believe I'm even saying this, Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of credit. At least he says, I'm concerned about what's happening right now. At least there's a modicum of saying something semi-accurate on Fox. Listen to this.
Surplus, but we're $2 trillion away from balancing the budget. So from my standpoint, I'm certainly concerned about what's happening right now in the markets. And I hope the administration is looking at that as well.
The Democrats.
Let's talk about what the people are saying right here. This from Cap Action, speaking to small business and families across the country. Let's play it.
So Trump just destroyed my business. Trump announced his massive tax plan on items coming from other countries. He says that the countries are going to pay that. That's false. It's the person bringing it in. And I own a small business.
I wonder what our grocery bill is going to be like. I wonder if we can afford to upgrade our car when it breaks down. All those things are on my mind. I think it's really going to hurt our pocketbook.
Tariffs are freaking killing me, man. We're a startup. We are American entrepreneurs. We got our life savings in this. We got a loan. We are trying to make it happen. But we don't have the option to get this product made anywhere else. Not really. We've looked into it.
Right now we're under serious strain from tariffs, especially on aluminum. Most of our beer is put in cans, and our aluminum prices have increased 17% this calendar year and are expected to grow even higher.
Now let's bring in Executive Director of Swing Left, Yasmin Radjy. She's been the Executive Director since 2022. Yasmin, you run an organization, People Powered, 1 million people across the country, chapters across the United States. I've been fortunate enough to be invited to speak at a lot of them here in California. What are you hearing from your membership and your different chapters right now?
Thank you so much for having me on, Ben, and being such a longtime friend of Swing Left's million members around the country. You know, I think this has been a week of a lot of emotional ups and downs, as you can imagine. Yesterday's economic hit, as you know, you covered really thoughtfully just now, is really scary for folks, right? And our volunteers and our grassroots donors are people who have small businesses and have families and have car payments and have mortgages. And so The weight of this week is significant, as really every week in this administration has been sort of overwhelming. And at the same time, this has been a week of a lot of real hope and a feeling like we have entered a new and more hopeful political paradigm. And that's because, as you know, the Wisconsin Supreme Court election was this Tuesday night, was this Tuesday, and the results were called pretty early in the evening, which was exciting because what they showed was a full-throated victory for the liberal justice on that court. And that's really, really important because not only does that mean Wisconsin now has a liberal majority or keeps a liberal majority on its court, it also means that we're setting the stage for the ability to draw fair lines for critical House districts and to have free and fair elections in Wisconsin, and of course, so many other issues. And then we also saw other amazingly hopeful results in some of the deepest red turf in Florida, with 2 districts, House districts that we knew were unwinnable. We saw incredible double-digit Democratic overperformance. And, as you well know, Republicans are running really scared of everything that you showed in those clips earlier, shows what we are all feeling, which is that Donald Trump made, a series of pretty effective lies over the course of the 2024 election, telling people that if they voted for him, he'd bring prices down. And what we saw yesterday, and it's surreal that he called it a day of liberation. It was really a day of real hamstringing of our economy and of people's lives. Folks are not just thinking, oh, shoot, maybe we made the wrong decision. Folks are organizing in astronomical numbers around the country, and Wisconsin and Florida were just the beginning signs of the electoral consequences of what Trump is doing. But we're also seeing, Republicans, independents, voters, Democratic voters who stayed home this cycle, showing up at town halls and organizing. And at Swing Left, we've got, as you mentioned, 1 million members and about 400 groups all around the country led by volunteers. And we are seeing levels of enthusiasm, not just in Wisconsin this week, but all across the country for folks to start really getting involved in the fight ahead. And we just launched this week our campaign called 3 to Win, which is anchored on the number 3, which is the 3 districts that we need to win to flip the House. And I'm talking about that here in response to your question around energy, because I think folks are both really pissed off and really worried about things like what Trump is doing to wreak havoc on our economy. And they want to do something, but they're not really sure what they can do that doesn't just, feel like they're blowing off steam, but feels like it is meaningful and it can put an actual check on Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and on the MAGA agenda. And winning the House is that fight. And as we saw in Wisconsin, as we saw in Florida, there's enthusiasm, there's energy. We've got to point it in the right direction. We're only 3 seats away from winning the House. And if folks organize starting now, including in your backyard in California, in my backyard here in the DC area, and in all sorts of even really blue parts of the country, most of us live within 90 minutes of a competitive swing district. We only need to win 3 of them to win back a House majority. And that's only 7,309 votes. That's, smaller than a Texas football game, smaller than a concert in LA. And we can do that. And that really is going to put a meaningful check on an agenda that is deeply, deeply, deeply unpopular, as your clips earlier showed.
I think these protests that we're seeing, like the hands-off protests this weekend, are growing in strength. We're seeing the coordination of labor unions, people-powered movements all together. These protests are growing in strength. They're growing in size. I've predicted we're going to have what's going to be known as a summer of democracy or democracy summer. So on the one hand, you have these protests. Now, one of the things that I love about Swing Left is you say in our backyards, we have these events. They're literally, sometimes these events are held in people's backyards. And so the different chapters hold events in their backyards where they draft postcards and they do canvassing together and just exchange ideas. And, someone will be the designated person in a specific town to host it at their house this time. And then it's their house this time. And they bring in good food. And it's a fun way to have civic engagement with people and to take the concepts that we talk about here in the digital world, bring it into the real world, and be warm and welcoming and empathetic. And so that was my experience going to these events. So let people know where, if they want to join a Swing Left chapter or start a Swing Left chapter or be a part of one, what does that look like? What do they do if they see those clips at the beginning of the MAGA people selling Trump sneakers or whatever, and the MAGA Republican setters are like, you know what? I'm going somewhere today. Where do they go? What do they do?
That's you framed it exactly right. First of all, folks can go to swingleft.org/house and they can get involved today in the fight to win back the House. They can join, as you said, a local group because, we're 18 months away from this election. So what we're not looking for is to just have folks do one click and then, move on with their lives. Of course, if folks want to do one click, they'll be able to donate to the highest impact races. They'll be able to, get involved in that one click. But a lot of folks, as you said, digital fatigue is really real. And I think one of the reasons why your show is growing in its popularity is that we all gather online, right? We read, we engage with content online, we text our friends and DM our friends online, but we all also have an appetite for real human conversation and engagement. And so all of that online engagement, whether that's listening to shows like yours, whether that's going to swingleft.org, it ultimately needs to have people have more to talk about when they're gathered together at dinner, find ways to connect. And if we're in an 18-month fight to win back the House, and then we're going to have 2 years before the next presidential election, and then after that, we're going to have a lot of work to do to rebuild our economy and our country, given all the damage that Donald Trump and Elon Musk have already done. We've got to do that in a way where we are well trained for the marathon ahead. And our vantage point is we need to be really strong online and meet each other there. And in order to really build those muscles for the marathon ahead, we have to engage offline. And so when folks go to swingleft.org/house, they can sign up to join a Swing Left gathering in the community that they are closest to, wherever they are in the country. And whether or not there's a gathering already scheduled in your home turf, folks can host a gathering of their own. And that might be opening your doors, whether at your home or at a coffee shop or a park or whatever the case may be, to others that you might not know yet. Or whether it's getting your existing community, a book club, your group of friends that you wish you saw a little bit more. This is not just, it's actually like very strategically important for us to spend some time slowing down offline as we engage also in this very fast moving digital media landscape, both so that we've got the strong muscle for the marathon ahead, but also because something I've observed a lot as we're getting feedback from volunteers and donors in this really, really challenging moment for our country is that folks are also feeling things outside of our politics that are impacting them. And that's a real sense of loneliness, of isolation, of fracture. These are things that Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, Biden's Surgeon General in the last administration, called the top public health crisis in this country. And so at Swing Left, we are all about what are the highest impact actions that folks can take to make a material difference in shifting the balance of power for Democrats. So we've got a fighting chance on fighting for an economy that works for all, for a democracy that thrives, for a country that we can be proud of that lives up to our values. But in that process, we've got to do it in a way that grows our connection. And if folks get involved, again, at swingleft.org, my hope is that they're not just having a big impact, they're also driving meaning from that impact and sinking their teeth into a political strategy that even if they are brand new to politics and they've never done anything besides listening to news and listening to great shows like yours, they've never turned that into action yet, that they can get involved. And the vast majority of folks are much stronger political leaders than they know. And our job is to hold a mirror to them and also offer them the on-ramps to really high impact opportunities that, again, will shift the balance of power, which we can do. We're only 3 seats away from doing that in the one of the most critical levers of government, which is the House of Representatives.
Yeah, I always get asked from our viewers, well, what can I do now? What can I do? I think this is a step that you can take. Go to the website, take a look at what chapters are nearby. Think about starting your own chapter, and then, share the photos and videos online. Tag us. I'm sure there's a place where people can post the photos and share the ideas. They'll get to me, and Meidas will do our best to also kind of share what's going on out there, in the field. Now's the time to start. And so I thought it's important to highlight all of that. And Yasmin Radjy, Executive Director of Swing Left, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's great seeing you, Ben.
You too. And everybody hit subscribe, and let's get to 5 million subscribers.
Love this by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.